This is TWiT.
Too much skepticism, and this is a Dana Boyd point, that if we teach our young people to not trust anything or anyone, then that's where we end up here. I just was going through Twitter because I violate the rules, and I do that on the show sometimes.
I'm doing it too right now, so it's okay.
And I saw this amazing one. Rumor is that Pfizer, who sponsored the Oscars, needed a big moment around alopecia because they have a drug coming to market.
Please. That's a conspiracy, right?
Right. You know, so that's the kind of stuff that people are going to gravitate to if they want to. But the other thing, Leo, I think is important is that survey after survey after survey has the majority of people saying they don't trust what they read on social media. That's really good news. That's great news.
Yeah.
Right?
This is called growing up. Yeah. You know, learning what to trust, what not to trust, what to believe, what not to believe, choosing. I mean, every human, one of the things every human has to do, many don't do, is figuring out what their values are, what their core beliefs are, what they care about in kind of in a vacuum, having taken in all this information as they grew up, now really thinking about it, and then acting from then on according to their values is something everybody has always had to do. So I think I don't think more information or information flooding is necessarily a bad thing. People, this is just life. You have to learn.
But it comes down to quality. And like,
there's always been crap.
Yeah, but one of the big conundrums with misinformation research is
I grew up with Gilligan's Island. There's always been crap.
Oh, don't I know it? But I think, the moment that you're searching for something online and is the moment where you're most susceptible to misinformation because you're in an information seeking mode and you know that you don't know. And that's where the companies play an incredibly important role. Whereas, maybe it was harder back in the day before, internet search. You had to go to a library to kind of figure these things out.
No, because you had your neighbors and your friends and
you
family
talk to your neighbors.
Yeah. And I think that this is when you go out to your peers and you say, do you think it's alopecia that became a story because Pfizer wanted to, and then they go, what are you, nuts? And then you go, I guess that's probably not really happening. And I feel like this is a normal process that we're pathologizing.
I don't think so, though, because if I were to search online and because that story about alopecia is, ranked really highly because a lot of people are sharing it, then that's a story that I probably wouldn't have run into if not by virtue of internet ranking systems.
Or listening to this podcast.
Or listening to this podcast. But it is going to reach many more people.
Right.
Especially in moments where they're seeking information. If they were just like, well, what is alopecia anyway?
Are you more vulnerable because you're seeking information?
Yeah.
You are.
Because you're asking, a lot of people
I would say you're
ask
less
full questions now.
Because now you're in the I think you're most vulnerable when you know the answer and you don't question it. I think you're less vulnerable when you're saying, I want to know what the answer is, and you're weighing facts. That's when you're best capable of saying what, let's look at the truth.
Yeah, my problem is it's not all facts that you're weighing things against.
Well,
you're looking at a social media return.
But Joan, you would agree that there's no way
return.
to create a perfect stream of factual information. There's always going to be misinformation. Yes?
I think there will always be misinformation in spaces that have a preponderance of user-generated content.
Right. Humans are really good at it.
Yeah, but I do think that, to Jeff's point earlier, that there is a way to create streams of more factual or public interest information that have not been explored yet, and that aren't prioritized by these companies. And maybe it shouldn't be the role, and maybe you got me here, Leo, on this, is maybe it's not the role of social media companies to do that. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe they tell you that you're in a landfill of words.
Yes. Their job is to pile it on.
Yeah, and so, but you want to demand more from companies that are in the information
I don't want them
space.
to be an arbitrator of what is good and not good, what is true and not true.
They already are.
Well,
but
that's
they already
right.
are.
But that's what I always inveigh
that.
against. You know, when Twitter says, well, you don't really want a chronological feed, I say, no, yes, I do. I don't want you telling me what's important. I don't do Facebook because I don't want them giving me information based on their values. But I don't want them to filter out stuff. I want them to give it all to me. Let me be the judge.
You really don't want that.
Yes,
because then you're going to get the alopecia stuff right next to and equal to the New York Times, which is what the FCC commissioner wants.
That's an old media point of view that there's somebody, the New York Times or somebody, who should be judging, and that you should trust them.
It's next to you. That the alopecia stupid theory is right next to TWiT, and is judged equally. You don't really want that.
Well, who do you want to say not? Who's in charge?
This is why we created the institutions that are now outmoded. But in 1470, I'll be going to Gutenberg here. 1470, Niccolo Pavarotti said to the Pope, "You gotta fix this print stuff. It's all mixed up.
Right.
You gotta censor it."
And
what
you
he was
were
really
against
asking
that.
for was an editor. No, what he was asking for was not censorship. What he was asking for was the institution of editing and publishing.
I would submit, and this is kind of a change of pace for me, that all editorial judgment is censorship of some kind. It's deciding what's good and what's not good. And I want to give me all the information.
Gee, who decides what stories we talk about in the rundown?
Well,
yeah.
But at a meta level, you decide what podcasts you listen to. You decide who you want to hear.
You're talking about consumer choice. Right.
I'm saying,
Leo?
I understand that what has happened over the intervening thousands of years is the amount and quantity of information has gotten unmanageably huge. And everybody who encounters the internet, and I'm sensitive to it because I didn't grow up with it, goes, whoa, there's a barrage of information. But but the truth is that's life. Your sensorium is barraged even the minute you come out of the womb, and you learn how to...
You go on TikTok.
You learn how to triage it internally using inputs from friends, neighbors, family, mother, father, and your own judgment. And it's on you. And I don't want anybody telling me what I should know or not know. I want all the information, and I will decide. I think anything else is censorship.
But here, let's go back to the example then where Definers or like a Targeted Victory, the PR firm that's working on behalf of Facebook, is getting, ghostwriters to plant letters to the editor. And you're just like, don't you feel like there should be some truth in...
Yes, the answer to that is more information, not less information. So just as you said, transparency. So I want to know, Meta paid for that letter. That will help me judge the value of that letter. That's more information, not less.
Yeah, but there's also just this, I hear you, and I don't agree that all editing is censorship because, to be honest with you, some words gotta go.
No, I'm not saying you.
Yes,
of course, you and I and everybody else should edit, but I don't want to put somebody.
You don't want a computer or an algorithm doing it,
or just
when you subscribed.
Or he doesn't even want a human being now. You don't even want the editor of the New York Times now. That's what you're saying. You want Dave Weiner's view of the river.
No, they can. And then if I choose the New York Times, I'm choosing to read their viewpoint. It needs to be clear in my mind.
That's what I'm saying.
Reading a viewpoint. If you listen to TWiT, you're listening to a viewpoint. But I should be able to choose. I shouldn't. There should not be. And this is where big tech can be gatekeepers because they control the faucets. Open them up.
But beware, you're going to sound like Carr in a minute and say you are required to carry everything. And
no,
it's still my bar.
I agree with you.
Kick you out when you get drunk.
I agree with you. I choose to follow Twitter or even people on Twitter. So I get the choice, and Twitter gets the choice. And if I want to go on Truth Social or Gab, I can. And so that's the way it should be. That's the right, and I think that's what the First Amendment is about, is that there shouldn't be some higher authority saying you, but no, not you.
Well, the no, not you is about grifts, scams, hoaxes, like, so the way that this field developed around disinformation, I had been in research about white supremacists and white supremacists using social media and other places to raise money and to recruit new followers. And, and the entire scene of these people on social media was about hiding who they were, about using coded phrases, so that, it was hard for content moderators to figure out what they were doing and planning. And these are some of the same jokers that eventually planned Unite the Right in Charlottesville using apps. And so it's not the case that it's just cut and dry.
You wouldn't have stopped the Klan from marching through Skokie, though.
Oh, I would have.
You would have.
I would have done it with my own 2 hands. I'm not a legislator, but I would have, I would have put this body on the line.
That's the classic free speech ACLU story, though, right? Is to defend the rights.
But we can also protest. Joan can show up and protest and shoot their feet and get them out of there. Yeah.
No, you can't shoot their feet.
Well,
I do not own any firearms.
No, no.
But what I'm saying to you,
but you could
Leo,
have a dialogue,
even
at the top of your lungs. You could have a dialogue.
I'm not going to have a dialogue with the KKK any day of the week. I know where I stand, and
I want to be that bicyclist in Washington who was in the front of the truck
of the convoy. Just going real slow.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, as you start to move between the wires and the weeds and you go from these like online examples to these real life examples, you have to also think about, well, what is the community that the KKK is routinely trying to march on? They're routinely trying to march on Black communities. They're provoking fear, causing, in many cases, riots and chaos in their wake. And so, it's in the planning of that happens on social media. Right. And so I do think that there should be more accountability for these systems and these mechanisms of coordination.
That's a tricky gray area.
It's tricky.
It's illegal for them to burn a cross. Is it illegal for them to go on Telegram and say, let's go burn a cross? And who should be responsible? I would submit it's not really Telegram's job. It's maybe law enforcement's job. But you could keep going down that.
Government.
But there's a point. But that's what I'm saying. This is the tricky gray area where there's clearly illegal acts. And that they should be arrested for that and put in jail. And then there's this gray. It gets grayer and grayer as you go back and back. To.
But imagine this, Leo. You're the owner of the Baskin Robbins, and the KKK's using your business as a place to have their Tuesday night meetings so that they can plan their.
So you're allowed
march.
As the owner to say, "Get the hell out of here! I don't like what you're saying."
Well, then all we're asking is the owners of Facebook to be like, "Get the hell out of here!"
No, it's a garden party.
They can.
It's a garden party.
No one's saying they shouldn't be able to. I'm not saying that. No. Well, this is chairman of this FCC commissioner is, but I agree with you, Jeff. I disagree with him. Okay. No one should say to any. But that's what I'm saying. It's not the platform's responsibility. They can do what they want, and they should do what we as a society would like them to do, but that's up to them. But, if you don't like it, get your bunch. If you don't like if the Baskin Robbins owner says, good, I love it, these guys eat a lot of ice cream, then I reserve the right to go and march outside and say, let's never go to this Baskin Robbins because the KKK organizes there. All of that's appropriate.
And that's the kind of public pressure that's been put on, like Twitter, for instance. So Twitter had blue checked a bunch of Charlottesville organizers, and people were like, "Why are you blue checking white supremacists over here, Twitter?" And they were like, I don't know. We're going to suspend all blue checks from here for a while and reevaluate our systems."
Fair
and
enough.
then eventually they started removing the blue checks and
that's their right.
and
I just don't want
YouTube.
Congress or the FCC to tell them what to do.